All right, welcome to an introduction to ABLE accounts in 2026. I am going to share a disclaimer. National Disability Institute is the author and copyright holder of this content, and it is to be used solely for educational purposes. This material is not intended to replace or supersede any of the local, state of Colorado, or federal agencies, including applicable laws and regulations. And we don't assume any responsibility for learner interpretations of the content or if any of the content becomes altered by a third party. As of May 14th of 2026, NDI has ensured the accuracy of the data and the links that we have provided in this presentation. However, external links and of course annual updated information is subject to change. So we advise everyone who is attending and listening to the recording to verify any numbers or information before providing services. National Disability Institute, or NDI, does not offer direct services, benefits, or financial counseling, and this content is not intended as such. So with that, we will get started. I wanted to share that my name is Jody Ellis, and I am the director of the ABLE National Resource Center, and I am joined today by Lori Schaller. Lori also works for National Disability Institute in several projects, and she is an ABLE subject matter expert, and she is here to answer questions that may come up about the materials. ABLE NRC is owned and managed by National Disability Institute, and we have all the ABLE information that you may need in one place. We have reliable, objective information, including plan comparison tools, best practices, and strategies for you to save now and into the future. ABLE NRC's mission is to educate, promote, and support the positive impact that ABLE can make on the lives of millions of Americans with disabilities and their families. I also want to thank support from Prudential. They have been a funder of ABLE National Resource Center for a number of years, and we're thankful for their support. Today's topics, we're going to go over learning about ABLE. This will include the ABLE advantages. We're going to cover eligibility and how contributions and withdrawals make into an ABLE account. And then on the second part of the presentation, we're going to move on to taking action. We're going to cover how to find an ABLE plan, how to open up an account, how to manage an account, and then share a bunch of ABLE resources for you that can help you get started on your ABLE journey. So we will start with the ABLE advantage. Why does ABLE matter? ABLE is an acronym and it stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. It is also sometimes referred to as a 529A account. They are one and the same. And it is a savings and an investment account that is designed exclusively for people with disabilities. And ABLE allows millions of people with disabilities the opportunity to save, invest money, and grow wealth. So there are a lot of opportunities that ABLE can bring. The first is that the account is always in the person with the disability's name. So that person controls their funds, even if they need others to help them manage the account. The other is that a wide array of expenses could be paid from ABLE funds. And these are things that help the ABLE account owner directly to stay healthy, independent, and have a good quality of life. The account allows someone to save and invest while keeping eligibility for federally funded means tested benefits programs. So here, what I am talking about primarily is supplemental security income, or SSI, as well as Medicaid. Also, the investment in ABLE accounts, the investment growth is tax-free, so there are tax advantages. And ABLE could also serve as a retirement account. So if an account owner is working and is not able to contribute to an employer sponsored retirement plan, an ABLE account is a financial tool that could serve a similar purpose and could be used for retirement savings and long-term savings.
I,
So
I
I
have
thought, yeah, go ahead, Ty.
I, Jody, I had a couple questions in the last slide.
Sure.
Sure. Just I Hi, my name is Ty, and I actually use Able myself. I also promote it. I think it's a wonderful tool. Um, but I just want people to kind of understand a few things. So like the qualifying expenses. I think that can be tricky at sometimes because I know in Colorado a qualifying expense could be taking yourself to the movies. Um, and that's totally reasonable. Um, but what if you buy things for like a household? What if you wanted to buy a pinball machine for your whole house? Is that something you could do if it benefits everyone in your house? Or does it have to be primarily you? And then I guess this is one that kind of rubs me the wrong way is I think it's better to give than to get. So like, what about the Christmas presents? Because I've been told that Christmas presents may not be a qualified expense. So that's my first question.
Yeah, these
Great.
these are all good questions, Ty. I would have to say questions about qualified disability expenses are probably the most frequently asked to ABLE NRC, so it comes up often. And I think the reason why it comes up often is that on this slide, it is sharing the category, not categories, but it's sharing what an expense is that qualifies. And so it's what helps the account owner stay healthy, independent, and to have a good life. So it's very broadly defined, and I think that that's why we get so many questions. So I'm going to actually defer the answering this question to Lori, who is our subject matter expert. So Lori.
Thank you, Jody, and thank you for asking, Ty. So, the IRS set the categories of qualified disability expenses very broadly because, given each person's situation, they may define for themselves something different from another person who also is an ABLE account owner. So, um, if a person feels that an expense may not be a qualified disability expense, we suggest that the person use funds not saved in their ABLE account for that purchase. So, for example, purchasing a gift for someone else is not clearly defined as a qualified disability expense. So, maybe using funds that a person has saved in their checking account would help that person to make that purchase. And whenever a person spends money from their ABLE account on qualified disability expenses, they want to save that receipt for this calendar year for at least 3 years. Thank you, Jody.
Yeah, yeah. And Ty, you had asked another question about you. I think you mentioned specifically a pinball machine, but you mentioned a household item that would be used by the ABLE account owner, but maybe also used by someone else or other household members. And that is able qualified disability expenses are flexible, and that is one of the flexibilities is that yes, the expense has to directly help the able account owner either be independent, healthy, have a high quality of life, but does not have to be used exclusively by that able account owner. So yes, other members of a household could potentially benefit from or use a QDE or qualified disability expense.
Very cool. I have one more question on this slide.
Sure, sure.
I know some able accounts, depending on where you live, may have tax incentives for your contributors.
Yeah.
I know that this is a big can of worms, but my big question, and this is something that I personally would like to know, so I'm helping people. Let's say you have a rich uncle in another state, um, and he is your main contributor. Are you looking for an ABLE account that may uh, be able to benefit him more uh, than having it in yours? Because if he donates money to you but doesn't live in Colorado State, he wouldn't get the tax incentives that Colorado State offers, right?
Yeah, so
That is correct.
the
Very.
tax incentives that are available, just say for instance for the Colorado's ABLE plan, it would be for Coloradans. So it is a state, Colorado state tax. So if someone is not a resident of Colorado State, then it's sort of not applicable for them.
That's what I thought, and I appreciate Able NRC giving us that information, whether states have those things or not. Um, I just wish there was a little bit more clarity for people to make that informed decision. Like, if my major contributor is in another state and they get an incentive for giving me money, maybe I don't want to be in the an able one. Now if
Mhm.
I'm the main contributor, maybe I want it to be in Colorado. So
Right,
I
right.
just I just think a little bit more understanding, which is why I asked that, is so I can
Mhm.
help people find the right able account for them. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, you're welcome. On some of the upcoming slides, we are going to talk a little bit more about qualified disability expenses. And if I say QDE, that's what I mean by that. Sometimes I use the acronym. And we will also have on a slide some of the features of the Colorado ABLE plan, and we will talk about the tax incentives that the Colorado ABLE plan has.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. And so on that previous slide, we mentioned that an ABLE account can serve as asset protection, right? And that someone could save and maintain the benefits that they would need. And so the title of this slide is Build the Life You Want, Keep the Benefits That You Need. And we borrowed this from Colorado Department of Vocational Rehabilitation. And I think it sums up very nicely one of the advantages for an ABLE account for people who receive supplemental security income or Medicaid services. And in the case of SSI or supplemental security income, up to $100,000 in an ABLE account will not impact your SSI payments, and it does not impact your eligibility for the SSI benefit program. So, right now in 2026, for an individual to maintain eligibility for SSI, they can't have more than $2,000 in assets or resources in another type of bank account, like a typical checking or savings account. But if those funds were in an ABLE account, they could have $100,000 before their SSI payment would be impacted. So comparing the possibilities of saving $100,000 compared to $2,000, it's a really big advantage to having an ABLE account. And then I do want to share that any amount up to your plan's limit, and I will share what the plan's limit is on another slide. Any amount of ABLE funds would not impact someone's eligibility for any of the other benefits that are listed on this slide, and that includes federal student aid, HUD, Housing and Urban Development Program Assistance, nutrition assistance programs, often referred to as SNAP, Social Security and Disability Insurance, referred to as SSDI. That's another type of Social Security disability benefit program. So you can have any amount, it could be above 100,000. And Medicare and Medicare savings programs, and Medicaid. And this includes Medicaid waiver services. So I do kind of want to share that. That is a true benefit for having an ABLE account for anyone who receives these benefit programs. And then we talk about tax advantages. So, Ty, I know you had already mentioned about Colorado state tax incentives for ABLE contributors. When we say that ABLE is tax advantaged or is a tax advantaged account, what we mean by that is that the investment growth is tax free. It is not countable income for means tested benefits, which we already spoke about. Many of the ABLE plans have a variety of different investment options. ABLE plans may offer tax credits or tax deductions for ABLE contributors. And Colorado does for people who are contributing to a Colorado ABLE plan. And then the funds withdrawn from the ABLE accounts are not taxable and they are not counted as income when withdrawn. And then employed ABLE account owners may be eligible for a federal tax savers credit. So those are some of the tax advantages that an ABLE account could provide. In an ABLE overview, so here I want to get into a little bit of eligibility. Um, as you may have heard, in 2026, the eligibility to have an ABLE account expanded. And now it is estimated that 14 million Americans with disabilities are eligible to have an ABLE account. And the eligibility is twofold. One, it's the age of onset of your disability. So in 2026, this increased to the disability had to have begun before you are age 46. So 45 years of age or earlier. And you have to meet a severity of disability condition, and it has to result in, it has to cause significant functional limitations. And this could be proven or could be determined in one of two ways. One is the person receives or is eligible to receive SSI or SSDI, which are the Social Security Disability Benefits programs. Or if they've never received Social Security disability program benefits, then a physician could sign a statement saying that you have a qualified disability. And ABLE NRC has prepared a disability certification form that someone could use for this purpose. And that is located on our website. So for
This is Ty.
yeah, go ahead, Ty.
Sorry, I had a couple more questions. Um,
Sure.
I'm already unable, so I know how easy this is, but I know a lot of people out there who are like applying for another benefit is like, riding, pushing a boulder up a mountain, just another boulder to add to the list. Um, for me, I think applying for ABLE is one of the easiest benefits or resources I've done. I was just hoping that you could maybe share about the process a little so they don't have a biased view like myself, but just like what is the timetable, what to expect. If they have to get the doctor to fill out that paper, how hard is it to ask the doctor to do something like that? Like, how much do you have to explain to the doctor? Um, just and then one other question, and that's simply, what if you have a disability that improves over a certain time? Do you ever risk losing your ABLE account from getting better?
Okay, great questions. I am going to cover the process for opening an account on a later slide, so I'm going to reserve answering that question to a little bit later on in the session. But I do think we should answer the question now about what if you have a condition that might improve over time. Because here on the slide, we're saying that a qualified disability could be an illness or a condition that may have worsened over time. But on the reverse side, if you have a condition such as, just say, a psychiatric diagnosis that the symptoms might ebb and flow and there could be changes. Lori, do you have kind of some guidance that maybe you could offer in this case.
Sure. So I think to refer to that disability certificate and have that discussion with your primary doctor to ask, do I still have a disability? Because some conditions continue even though the person is managing that condition with specific medications or treatments or exercise, things of that nature. But other individuals may have a disability that clearly uh, has improved and they're not likely to encounter those conditions again. So that person's ABLE account is still owned by the ABLE account owner. They can continue to contribute funds into that ABLE account until the end of that calendar year that it has been determined that they no longer have a disability condition. And they can spend those funds sometime in the future as they choose to. There may be an income tax on investment growth applied at that time, but those funds are still available to that ABLE account owner to spend as they choose.
Great. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. So you would not have to worry about your Able account being shut down or closed. Um,
Correct.
yeah. And with the topic of a qualifying disability, the ABLE regulations use the term disability. So when we talk about ABLE, we often use that term disability too, because that's kind of the language that's in the regulations. But for the purposes of eligibility for owning an ABLE account, it could be considered an illness, it could be a diagnosis, it could be a condition. So, or it could be it could be a single disability or it could be a combination of disabilities. So there really are kind of a wide range of conditions or illnesses that would qualify someone for an ABLE account. And just some of these examples include a developmental disorder, an intellectual disability, a psychiatric diagnosis, a nervous system disorder, hearing or vision loss, congenital anomalies, respiratory disorders, and more. So, I urge people to maybe not necessarily get caught up on the term disability, even though that is the term that we often use when we're talking about ABLE eligibility. And then what will happen is I had mentioned that if you are eligible, you could either have a signed physician statement indicating that you have a qualifying disability, or if you have Social Security disability benefits or are eligible to have them, then that would be your proof of having the qualified disability. And I wanted to just note here that when you go to open an ABLE account, which will be done online, you will self-attest that you have a qualified disability. But the form, so the Social Security award letter or benefits verification statement or your signed physician statement, that you would still want for your own records. So the ABLE plan is not going to ask you for that documentation when you go ahead and open up the account, but you should still keep record of it so that you have that for your own files. And then
I,
you
I,
talk a lot. Yeah, go ahead, Ty.
I was just gonna say I'm maybe a bit more optimistic about physical health care, but I think we're on the verge of a lot of big cutting breakthroughs, and so things like visual and hearing and maybe physical disabilities could be disappearing quicker than like things related around the brain, maybe in my lifetime. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We talk a lot about what ABLE eligibility is, right? And I also want to just share what it's not determined by a lot of different factors. So, someone's ability to work, someone's work history or current work status. None of that has any bearings on ABLE eligibility. So you could be employed, you could be unemployed, you could have a solid work history or not. Your sources of income does not have any bearing on ABLE eligibility. The income level that you have, the amount of assets or savings or resources that you have has no factor with ABLE eligibility. And we talked a lot about how ABLE might have an intersection with public benefits programs, but you do not have to have received SSI or SSDI either in the past or currently to still qualify for an ABLE account. And then I do want to share that the current age of the prospective ABLE account owner also has no bearing. So you can open up an ABLE account at any age. So when we talk about the age of onset of disability being before age 46, that's disability onset. But someone who is in their 50s or 60s can go ahead and still open up an ABLE account. So let's move on to contributions. Contributions into an ABLE account can be made by a variety of different sources. Obviously, the account owner themselves can contribute to their account. Friends and family members can contribute to the account. They can use a gifting platform to do so, or write a check towards that account. A trust, so whether it's a special needs or a pooled trust, a trust account can go ahead and contribute to an ABLE account. And a 529 qualified education plan or tuition plan can also roll over funds into an ABLE account. And an employer could also contribute funds to an ABLE account. So these are all the different sources. And from all sources, there is an annual contribution limit. This changes from year to year. So if you are not watching this recording in 2026 and it happens to be a future year, please go ahead and look at what the annual contribution limit would be for that year. In 2026, the total amount is $20,000. And the contributions from friends and families and the trusts and the 529 rollover, they do not count as income for the public benefit programs. So the account owner's earnings or the account owner's contributions to their account and an employer, if it is like a direct deposit of earnings, that would still count as income for benefit programs. But the other contributions, those are gifts and would not be considered income. And Ty, I think you have another question.
Well, I'm just asking questions
Yeah.
for other people mostly. Um,
Yes.
I know that there's a $20,000 limit of contributions. However, isn't there like an additional 1,500 plus? Thank you. Never mind.
Yes, yes. So the good news is that if you are an employed ABLE account owner and you are not contributing or don't have contributions made into an employer-sponsored retirement plan or account, then you are eligible to have additional deposits in your ABLE account equal to either your earnings or in 2026, it's $15,650 and it's whatever is left. So this change or this addition of being able to contribute more if you're employed, you can contribute, this is a 78% increase. And so it really is another example of how it pays to work. So let me just go over a quick example of what we mean by equal to employment earnings, whichever is less. So if you are employed and you're eligible for this provision, able to work provision, and you have earned $20,000, then you could contribute the full $15,650. So that is a total of $35,650 in 2026. If you are employed and you work part-time, you're not able to contribute to an employer-sponsored plan because of your part-time work status, and say you earned $5,000 in your earnings, then you can only contribute the $5,000 extra. So in this particular example for 2026, it would be you could contribute $25,000 into your ABLE account for that year. So I just kind of wanted to explain that a little bit. And I don't think I really need to review for this particular presentation, but people that do live in Alaska and Hawaii can have higher amounts. Their cost of living is higher. All right, so I know we talked about QDEs earlier in this presentation, or qualified disability expenses. These are just some of the categories that the IRS has defined as being qualified disability expenses. So it could be education, basic living expenses, housing, transportation, legal fees, employment and training, assistive technology, personal support services or caregiving services, healthcare, wellness, prevention, funeral and burial expenses. Those are all broad categories and general expense categories. They're not intended to be all inclusive, but this list is to help ABLE account owners try to determine if an expense is a QDE. And I'll just cover a couple of them. Let's cover housing. So housing could be an array of expenses that fall under that umbrella or domain of expense. So it could be utilities, it could be rent, it could be a home modification, it could be a mortgage payment, it could be insurance. It's any housing related needs. And then the next one that I'll just explain in maybe a little bit more detail is transportation. So the IRS isn't defining all the different modes of transportation. They just say transportation expenses are QDEs. So it could be purchasing your own vehicle. It could be paying a car loan or vehicle loan. It could be um, shared ride services like Uber or Lyft. It could be a taxi. It could be a bus pass. It could be a train pass. Any of those different examples all fall under the category of a transportation expense. So these are really vast. And then the other clarification or explanation that I'll give is in employment category. This does also include entrepreneurs who own their own business. So individuals who have business expenses, but they own the business, they can use ABLE funds to pay for those. And then I think also in a prior question, we did share that there are some flexibilities with QDEs. Um, and, funds could be withdrawn from ABLE as often as needed to pay for these QDEs. So there is not a limit of, oh, you can only withdraw your funds twice a year or something like that. That doesn't exist. There's no limitations with that. It's as they are needed. So let's get into choosing an ABLE plan. Ty, I know you asked this, like, hey, what's the process? How do we open accounts? So the first step, right? We talked about how you need to be eligible, right? So you either have a signed physician statement, and Ty, you had asked a question about how hard is that to get. Um, I think it depends, and I can't really give a standard set rule of how hard that is. But if you have medical records, or if you don't have medical records that you could share with a doctor from, a disability that might have been onset a significant number of years ago, there could be family members who could share information about symptoms and share information about prior diagnosis that you could bring into that physician. And again, if you have a Social Security disability benefit, documentation, whether it's an award letter or a statement, that suffices by itself, and you would not need to have a signed physician statement. Um, so once you know you're eligible, you have that eligibility has been determined, then you want to start looking at what ABLE plan should I select? And in 2026, there are 51 different active ABLE plans that are available, and this includes in District of Columbia and Guam. And out of those, there are 32 states that allow for out of state residents to enroll in their program. So, ABLE NRC has three different plan comparison tools that you could use to try to find the plan that best meets your needs. And so on this slide, it's a table, and on the left side of this table, we share some features that are same across all ABLE plans. So it does not matter what ABLE plan you select, these features are kind of the same. And then on the right of this table is some features that might vary from plan to plan. So the things that stay the same, your eligibility criteria, that stays the same across all plans. The contribution limits, other than the fact that Hawaii and Alaska might have higher amounts for the work provision, those are the same. The way you spend the funds through qualified disability expenses, that the definition in a qualified disability expense is the same. And then they are opened and managed online with the exception of the state of Maine. So these are all online enrollment processes. You have a dashboard when you own an ABLE account, so you would manage it online. And then, regardless of where you live or what plan you choose, you can only have one ABLE plan. The things that are different are the investment options, the plan balance limits, the state tax credits or deductions that we mentioned, and then the features of how you would use your account, whether it be by having checks or debit cards or prepaid spending card, those vary. The state residency requirement may vary, and then the fees that the state plans have could vary from plan to plan. And we always say to research your own state plan first because of the incentives and state tax credits that we talked about. And so on this slide, and then I will pause, Ty, for your question. Colorado does have a state income tax deduction, and they have this in place through at least December 31st of 2030. So there would be a tax deduction if contributions are made into the Colorado ABLE. So Ty, questions?
Yes, just because I know some people are proud flip phone users and prefer brick and mortar, I've already been asked this. Are there any able accounts? Like I know a lot of these accounts are associated with other banks. If a person wanted to go into an office, meet with someone, is that at all possible in their state, or do they have to do everything over the phone or virtually?
Yeah, so right now for the Colorado ABLE plan, it is all virtual. But as you mentioned, there is a customer service number. So, it could be by phone. The online enrollment process, which we're going to come up to on the next slide, that is online, but many plans would offer like a paper application that you could fill out and then mail in if you didn't want to open it up online. So there are a few workarounds with that, but there is not an in-person banking option at this time. So I had mentioned the only state that does have that is in the state of Maine. So for the Colorado ABLE plan, though, on this slide, we do have the customer service number. It's a 1-800 number, 609-3468, and they are open from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then here are just some features of the Colorado ABLE plan. To try to get an idea of what Colorado ABLE offers. And all this information is on the ABLE NRC website. It's in our comparison tools that I had mentioned on the prior slide. And I will share that ABLE NRC does not own or manage any of the ABLE plans. So we just provide information about all the plans that are available nationwide. And we receive this information from Colorado ABLE. And so there is a $25 requirement to open up an account, $25 or more, it could be higher. The minimum contribution amount once that account is open is $1. So you can't contribute something less than $1. The plan balance limit that I had mentioned on another slide is 500,000. And in terms of the average, this amount is above average if you take a nationwide average of the state ABLE plan balance limits. It's usually around like the average is about 475,000. So state of Colorado is above that. So that's a very significant amount. So just think of this. Someone could save in their Colorado ABLE plan through investment growth $500,000 and still maintain eligibility for Medicaid. Um, the different types of places where you could put your funds in your ABLE account, in the Colorado ABLE account, there is an FDIC insured option, and then there are 6 investment options. And there are some fees. I only listed the annual maintenance fee here on the slide. It's $58, which is paid quarterly, but that amount is less if you select e-delivery of statements. So if they don't have to print out and mail and have those expenses, they pass that savings on to you. And so the annual account maintenance fee is less than that. Um, and then there could be some additional fees waived if your account balance is over $250, like if they charge a check or a debit card fee, some of those are waived depending upon your balance in your account. And the Colorado ABLE plan has an enrollment incentive, and effective July 1st of 2026, this amount is $50. And this is an increase from what was in place prior. So to open an ABLE account, this is from Colorado ABLE, 3 simple steps that I list the website that you go on, coloradoable.org. On ABLE NRC's site, we also have a direct link to Colorado ABLE. So you could go on the state plan comparison tool. You could go on that state plan, click Colorado. You're going to get a direct link to Colorado ABLE. Read the plan disclosure documents. They would give you all the detailed information that you would want to know. So, like Ty, you were asking about those income tax credits and things like that. And what if it's not a Coloradan resident? All of that, like the detail of that type of information, investing, any of that, you're going to find in your plan disclosure documents. And then you want to gather your information. So you're going to be asked in the online enrollment process to enter in some identifying information. And so you would just need to have that information at your, kind of right there to make your enrollment process quicker. So things that you would need is you would need to know your Social Security or your tax ID number, your date of birth, your US street address, your email address, and then if you are opening up your account by transferring money, say from a checking account, a non-ABLE checking account to your ABLE account, you would just need to know like routing numbers and things like that for that particular purpose. And we just say, it is never too early or too late to get started on your ABLE path. You don't have to know all things about ABLE to get started. And as we mentioned in Colorado, the initial contribution requirement is $25. So it's a relatively low cost to open up an account. You can open up your account any time of day since it's an online enrollment. There's no particular hours that you have to do that. And then if you're unsure about investing, you can open up an ABLE account and select just the FDIC insured option and not select any investment options until you have some idea of how you would like to allocate your contributions in your account. You don't have to do all of it at once when you're opening up your account. And to grow your account, so again, we mentioned it is online. And the ABLE account owner can choose other people to help them manage their account if needed. And there are different access levels that people could have. So you could give someone access only to view statements, but not to make any transactions, as an example. Um, and you do want to consider what features you want to use. Are you going to use electronic transfer of funds from a non-ABLE account to your ABLE account? Are you going to use checks or a debit card? You would manage your account through that, and there is a dashboard and portal that you would use. How to use your ABLE account. So you can make contributions through a check, payroll deduction, electronic funds transfer, or an automatic contribution plan, rollover of the 529 account that we had mentioned, an online e-gifting, or contributions from a trust. And then for withdrawals, you can make those decisions through that online portal. You could make withdrawals by check or by electronic transfer of funds, or through the use of the prepaid card is another way that you can use the funds in your ABLE account. And then for saving and investment options, again, there are usually a lot of plans have more than one investment choice. So you can go ahead and look at your plan disclosure booklet to see what those choices are. And you can change your investment election, like whatever you decide of how you want to, where you want to put your ABLE savings. You can make those changes twice every 12 months. So even if you decide one way and then later you're like, no, I think I want to reallocate my savings, you do have flexibility to make those changes after the fact. And then for best practice tips, we do recommend using ABLE account in conjunction with another account. So we recommend to deposit benefits and earn income into a checking account, pay for all your housing and food and monthly expenses from that checking account, and then any unused funds at the end of the month could be transferred into your ABLE account at that time. And what this does is this just protects your contribution limit, because if you are putting in funds that you're immediately going to be spending, your annual contribution limit could be used up more quickly than maybe what you're thinking it would. We also, as a best practice tip, recommend to automate. So it's great if you can set a portion of your earnings or income to be directly deposited into your ABLE account and kind of set it and forget it. That's a really helpful tool to maximize your savings over time. And then Lori alluded to this at answering an earlier question about saving your receipts, because the ABLE Plan Manager is going to submit some tax forms to the IRS. So the IRS is going to know what contributions have been made into your account and what deductions have been taken from your account, but it's not itemized receipts. And so just for the ABLE account owner's safety, in the event of an audit, in the event the IRS ever asked, it is best practice to hold those receipts for up to 7 years. And then ABLE at a glance, I'll just share as of the end of the first quarter of 2026, 246,000 accounts plus have been opened. $3.2 billion are in assets under management of ABLE accounts, and the average account balance is higher than 13,200. And, Ty, this is your story. But, ABLE account owners have purchased a home, they've paid for assistive technology, completed college, started a business, modified their home, purchased a vehicle, paid for extra medical services that may be needed, and have saved for retirement. And I don't know, I did leave a little placeholder here, Ty. Um, I think the rest of our slides is we just want to share some resources from ABLE NRC. But if there's anything else about, giving your lived experience that you want to share here, I wanted to reserve some time for you to be able to share your perspective.
I'll share in just 1 minute. My name's Ty. I grew up in poverty, and have been on benefits most of my life. Up until 3 years ago, I was still on SSI, SSDI. I was on them both, SNAP, and in subsidized housing with Medicaid and all that good stuff. I got my job a little bit before that, but after my 9/12 work months, I worked myself off benefits. First thing I did when I got my job was open up an ABLE account. It was the first time in my life where I could actually save more money than the fees would, be able to take from me. So I opened up that ABLE account, and within a year's time, I purchased my home. Now I'm a proud homeowner. I also have a classic fire truck and a living room man cave that most people would be incredibly envious of. So, if I did it, I believe anyone can with the right supports.
Yeah, great, great successes for sure, Ty. Thank you so much for sharing. And we do have ambassadors such as Ty and others who are either ABLE account owners or family members of ABLE account owners who share their story about how they're using ABLE accounts. So I encourage you to visit the ABLE NRC website to hear from other ambassadors as well. And on our website, which is ablenrc.org, we have frequently asked questions. We've got a home ownership guide and a home inheritance guide. We have podcast recordings. We have webinars, either recordings of prior events or upcoming notices of upcoming webinars. You could subscribe to Achievable newsletter. We have an information flyer. We've got a vast resource library of all sorts of different materials. We do have ABLE decision guides, and these are step-by-step guides that help people to make decisions as it relates to their ABLE journey and questions that come up as they're evaluating their actions. And then we also have some toolkits. We have an employer toolkit, a service provider toolkit, a transitioned aged youth ABLE toolkit, and a veterans toolkit. And then we also have other resources for NDI. NDI has several different projects that it is involved in. There's an American Dream Employment Network for people who are interested in returning to work. We have a financial resilience center. We have an accessible transportation and assistive technology program and a small business hub. So there might be other resources at NDI besides ABLE NRC that may be of help. And we would love for you to stay connected with us. Share information about ABLE accounts. It still is a vastly underutilized financial tool. So we want you to share it widely with your friends, family, community groups. Subscribe to receive our Achievable newsletter and follow us on social media at National Disability Institute. So with that, I think we've sort of have gone through questions throughout. So I don't know, Ty, if you have any questions at the end. If you do have questions and you're listening to a recording, and we didn't answer your question and you can't find it on our frequently asked questions on our website, you could email us at info@ablenrc.org. Or if you have specific Colorado ABLE questions, you could email client service at coableonline.com. And Michael Keglevitz is the ABLE and Special Programs Manager at College Invest. So he would also be available to kind of help if answer your Colorado ABLE questions that you may have. So with that, I just want to thank you so much for your time. Thanks for learning more about ABLE.
Thank you both for presenting. Give me 1 second.